Are President Trump and Dr. Fauci going through a rough patch? Well, the media is so good at gaslighting, they seem to have done it to themselves. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with the breakdown for April 15th, otherwise known as April Fool's Day Part 2, or Tax Day. Well, is there tension between Dr. Fauci and the president? I would imagine the answer to that is a big old yes. Look, first of all, both have very different responsibilities, roles, and agendas. The sole responsibility of Dr. Fauci is a public health one. That's the only thing he's concerned about. He's a professional in public health. Does he care about whether some small business in Wyoming gets opened? Well, I'm not saying he doesn't care at all, but that's not his focus. He's hired as a scientist to do one thing and ask, how soon can we get back to normal business? And will we ever be back to normal business? Science is not as exacting as some people would like to think. In fact, let's remember that Dr. Fauci himself early on said, this is probably not going to touch our country. It's certainly not very much. It's not going to be a major disruption to us. He said that as early as February. And then suddenly, well, the world changed, and so did Dr. Fauci. The president, on the other hand, has to look at it like a general would look at a battlefield. He doesn't get to look at just one platoon or one piece of the battlefield. He's got to look at it all. That includes the economy, the balance of global power, travel, constitutional freedoms, as well as the health issues. So my question, is there some tension? Gosh, I would hope so, because if there's not, one of them's not doing his job. Now, another big thing some people try to do is to politicize Dr. Fauci, and they say, he's just a Democrat, and he's a liberal, and he's doing this on purpose. I don't know his political affiliation. My guess, quite frankly, he's probably a Democrat, probably a liberal. I don't know. He's never talked about it. But what he has done is to talk very specifically and, quite frankly, very glowingly toward the president, and is willing to listen to health professionals. In fact, this past weekend, do you remember there was such a big just go around from the media that the president was going to fire Fauci and that Fauci was out there trashing him? Fauci went to the podium on Monday of this week at the White House and basically shot that down like a bazooka going against a hot air balloon.
The nature of the hypothetical question was, if in fact we had mitigated earlier, could lives have been saved? Yes. I mean, obviously, if mitigation helps, that was taken as a way that maybe somehow something was at fault here. The first and only time that Dr. Birx and I went in and formally made a recommendation to the president to actually have a, quote, shutdown in the sense of not really shutdown, but to really have strong mitigation. The president listened to the recommendation and went to the mitigation.
I don't know the affiliations politically of Dr. Fauci, but here's the third question. Would he be really willing to destroy the nation's economy for a political purpose? I honestly doubt it. I just don't think anyone would be so political. Maybe Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff for sure, Jerry Nadler, maybe Chuck Schumer, but a medical doctor? Not likely. And then the question, is President Trump that gullible to fall for something? Let me tell you, I've been around President Trump quite a bit. I know him fairly well and have for a number of years, long before he ever ran for president, much less became president. And of all the things I can tell you about President Trump, he's not gullible. And in fact, if anything, he has an innate ability to instantly size up people and kind of know where they're coming from. So I would say that when you hear the press talking about this great dust-up between the two of them, you should discount it in the same way you discount about everything that the mainstream media says about President Trump or anyone associated with him. That's just as simple as I can put it. Well, please tell me your thoughts on Dr. Fauci by answering the question on the upper right of your screen and leaving a comment below. In a moment, I'm going to talk about how President Trump made CNN just about lose their minds, which, by the way, wouldn't be a big loss. That all happened at a recent press briefing. But before I do, have you ever had a heated argument with someone and Then right after it's over, you walk away with a sudden inspiration that provides you with a great retort that you'll never be able to use. Well, scientists have discovered the secret to avoiding that sort of brain fog, and it's really pretty simple. Just subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and click the like button, and that will never happen again. Now, there are a lot of words that you could use to describe the White House daily briefings on the COVID-19, the Chinese coronavirus, and the havoc it's wrought, but I wouldn't call them exhilarating or entertaining. That is until Monday. Finally, fed up with the rapidly biased news media that seems more interested in attacking and blaming President Trump and accusing him of not taking the pandemic seriously than in relaying accurate, necessary information to the public, the president introduced a video.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine.
His team is on it. They've been responsive.
He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive.
The president has been outstanding through all this. The vice president's been outstanding.
Yeah, the video showed that President Trump took steps to combat the virus going all the way back to January when he banned travel from China. The people who are now accusing him of having waited too long to take action were the very people calling him racist and xenophobic at that time. Now, remember when the president mentioned coronavirus in his State of the Union address? You know, that State of the Union address that Nancy Pelosi, who now claims he was fiddling while Rome burns, infamously ripped up the very pages of his speech right behind him. But I digress. Predictably, the media reacted like a pack of dogs who were forced to watch a screening of Cats. They just couldn't believe that President Trump had the temerity to show the public what they, the media, had said 2 or 3 months ago. The reporters in the room accused him of showing a campaign video, and both CNN and MSNBC cut away from the briefing to protect their viewers from actual news. Hey, at least they're consistent with fake news. Incredibly, what I assume must have been a petulant 14-year-old at CNN actually imposed just some titles on the press conference feed, reading things like, quote, "Angry Trump turns briefing into propaganda session," and "Trump uses task force briefing to try and rewrite history on coronavirus response." And this one, "Trump melts down in angry response to reports that he ignored virus warnings." Funny, he seemed pretty calm to me. And I thought propaganda referred to fake news, not showing the public video of direct quotes with accurate dates attached. My term for that, I call it journalism. Of course, it's understandable that CNN wouldn't recognize journalism since it's been so long since they've practiced it. MSNBC also explained their cutaway by saying there's no reason for them to broadcast propaganda. I agree. And yet they keep doing it 24/7. Another laughable response came on Twitter from someone who said reporters should never have just sat there respectfully and let Obama praise himself at length. Here's a news flash. That's pretty much all they ever did for 8 solid years. And a postscript. New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman is heard in her own voice in the video admitting that Trump was called a racist and xenophobe for his early cutoff of travel from China to the U.S., but it did slow down the spread of the disease. She tweeted that, quote, "Their use of the audio is misleading." I went on to say that he treated that travel limitation as a mission accomplished moment, end quote. Yes, I read the transcript, and she did go on to criticize President Trump. Oh, what a surprise. But that's irrelevant. Her personal interpretation of his attitude in no way altered what she said about his actions in January or the reactions to them. And nobody is under any obligation to quote her entire interview to provide context. Real journalists use excerpts and editing all the time. It's just that the excerpt must convey the actual meaning. An example of misleading editing would be cutting up and splicing a Trump comment to make it appear that he said that there were fine people among a group of white supremacists, when what he was talking about were people who want to preserve Confederate monuments. Again, this is journalism 101 stuff, so I'm really not that surprised that a New York Times reporter is simply unfamiliar with it. Well, thanks so much for watching. If you'd like more of my thoughts on the news of the day, subscribe to my newsletter. It's absolutely free, and you can do that by going to MikeHuckabee.com. Also, tune in for the next episode of Huckabee, Saturday at 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern. I hope you let me know in the comments what else you'd like for me to talk about, and please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and leaving a like if you enjoyed this video and you'd like more just like it. That's it for this edition of Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.